99% of you watching this video will not be successful as a sales rep in the high ticket sales industry for one very simple reason. You can't land good jobs. And the reason why is because you're using traditional outdated methods of landing jobs, not just in high ticket sales, but any other industry. Just look around you and think about it. How many people do you know close to you, friends, family, other people who you know, who struggle to land good jobs in any industry? The main reason for that is because their strategy sucks, just like you in the high ticket sales industry. If you do what struggling people do, you will struggle. So let's talk about how you can fix that so you can have a longer term career actually working as a full-time remote sales rep or a high ticket closer in the high ticket sales industry. First thing we need to look at is the numbers of a job post. Now, the vast majority of you are probably familiar with go out to Indeed, go out to job sites, go to Facebook groups, apply to every job post that you see, and usually you basically find that you run up the wall with scams or people that want you to pay them money for a guaranteed placement. And a lot of people actually fall into that. A lot of beginners, a lot of newbies, they end up paying the $3,000 to $5,000 and they end up on an offer that doesn't even make them any money. Or even worse, they end up wasting a ton of time, which we can't get back, by the way. We can get money back. We can make more money, but we can't get back more time. You're stuck in a pipeline for months and months and months on end, and then you're just kind of stuck not knowing what to do, and you don't have any skills to do anything of this process yourself. Let's say that there's 100 people who apply for a job post, right? That's being super conservative. You have a 1% chance of actually landing that role and opportunity. The odds are stacked dramatically against your favor. If you think any different, you're completely delusional. Even further, to break those numbers down, that 1% actually goes a lot lower because 100 people applying for a job post is being really conservative. There's hundreds, thousands of people that enter the new market of high ticket sales every single week and month. What's to make you think that not everyone's using the same method? Because they are. There are thousands, tens of thousands of other high ticket closers or sales professionals that are all competing for the title. They're all competing for the same positions you are. So you need to have a bit of a different strategy. That's not even including looking at in job applications and job posts. Typically, people are going to have AI softwares that will kick you out of the process with keywords that you say, experience, things like that. And typically, if you're watching this video, you're most likely going to be relatively new to this industry. And if you're attacking job posts and you're trying to get jobs with little to no experience, it's going to be incredibly difficult going through the methods that you're currently using, because simply you're going to be met with the concern or the objection, which is you simply don't have enough experience, and that is generated by lack of trust. The question on your mind is probably like, well, Connor, that's great. I understand that cold messaging now sucks and the traditional way of getting jobs sucks and it's ineffective. What do I do different? Well, for myself personally, if I track back over the past couple of years of what's actually made me successful, not just in high ticket sales, but every single job I've ever had. And the only traditional type job that I've had outside of sales was a retail job. So not really sales, but even then, starting then, I got that job by someone introducing me to the head manager of the store, which allowed me to get my foot in the door and get me that first interview. If I look at all the other relationships, all the other offers that I've worked on in the past 4 or 5 years now, every single one has been through referral, right? But how I met my first mentor was through a connection in a paid community that I was a part of. The next account that I found was introduced through, again, a friend of a friend who introduced me to the guy who had the account. I ended up making 10 to 12K a month fairly consistently for a year straight as a full-time closer. And I was actually, well, not really full-time, to be honest. I was probably working somewhere in the range of like 3 to 5 hours a day, something like that. And then the offer opportunities after that were all through referral, inclusive of the one with my mentor's brother, aka referral, where I was making 25K a month in commissions, working just 4 hours a day. For me, I couldn't really connect the dots looking forwards. I had to look backwards. And this is what I had found. I couldn't exceed 10 to 15K a month full-time as a high ticket sales rep. And it was simply for the reason because of my offer and my opportunity. Not only does cold DMing strangers and business owners not even get you your first interviews, but it also doesn't allow you to access the best and the top opportunities in the industry that no one can see. I want you guys to think of it like this. If you walked up to a millionaire on the street and you said, hey man, can I be a high ticket closer? Please, I'll dial your leads for free. Please, I'll cold call. I'll do anything that you want. You are a liability, not an asset to that company. Understand that you sacrificing your time is not necessarily an advantage to someone who's super successful. These business owners are paying $100, a couple $100, up to $1,000 to put a book call on your calendar. And if you're not skilled, if you're not trained enough, or you're not in the position where they think they can train you to the point where you are capable of taking those sales calls, they're simply just not going to allow it. And if you really just think about it, a lot of people really forget the human dynamic of scenario of things, right? Walking up to someone in person, you wouldn't normally say that, but online, you send out a bunch of messages to a bunch of strangers, especially business owners who are hyper successful, begging to work with them in some of the worst outreach messages I've probably seen in my entire life. As I mentioned earlier in this video, you need to understand that thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people have access likely to the same strategy as yourself. This makes things hyper competitive and makes business owners' inbox filled with the same thing, right? A ton of noise and not a lot of value. Lastly, before I talk more about the new method of and the new way of doing things, I want to represent to you some LinkedIn statistics from a study that was done by LinkedIn a couple years ago, where they surveyed over 3,000 business owners. And I think around the range, it was like 75% of the total companies hire from a trusted connection within the company. This is not with just sales. This is for every company. In the most desirable companies, it was about 95% hired through a trusted connection. What does this tell you, right? We know that the traditional ways of landing jobs, not just in the high ticket sales industry, but every industry, is becoming severely outdated. There is no longer the times where you can go in and walk into a store and hand them your resume and your cover letter, right? Times have changed. Times are very, very different. Now, the internet has made it more accessible than ever for everyone to apply, which is a fantastic thing. But because of that, there is now a significant amount of noise, and there's a lot of abundance when it comes to recruitment or selection or employment opportunity for companies just in general. So they have to be super specific about who they pick, and more importantly, who they trust to do the job. They were looking for, can you do the job? So that's capability. Do they want you to do the job? So that's likability. And do they think you can, or do they think you will do the job, right? Which is reliability. Now, as I talked about earlier, I kind of traced back the dots and looked at the patterns and the synchronicities of why I was so successful over the previous years, and I got on the good accounts. And that was networking, like I mentioned before. Now, networking, long story short, is basically the large sum of the amount of people that you know and the depth of value that they add to said marketplace, right? And really, a lot of people overcomplicate this concept, but if you really want a full-depth explanation, in-depth explanation of how all this stuff works, I've got an hour-long video on my YouTube channel already, and there's going to be another one that's coming out just this week. If it's not up already, I'll tag it down in the description below. Make sure you give it a watch there, because it's going to explain exactly how you can combat this issue of cold DMs, and definitely really help you with a new approach that's going to allow you not to be successful as a sales rep in the high-ticket sales industry in the short term, but also the long term, right? Everyone that should be watching my YouTube channel should be in it to win in the long game, not just in the next 30, 60, 90 days, as all of my amazing clients do. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed today's video. You got some valuable insights and maybe you learned something. If you want more help with getting this process streamlined and transitioning out of your 9-to-5 to high ticket sales professionally, the right way, with the right realistic expectations and timelines, the right skills, the right tools, the right guidance, the right strategy, there's going to be a link down below in the description where you can book a call with me or my team, and we can talk about whether or not you might be a fit for what we have going on here as the RSA Mastermind. We're at about 143 members at this point. We started about April last year in 2023, and we've grown completely organically, and for about the vast majority through word of mouth. So if you're looking to streamline this process and really learn everything about networking and how our guys land jobs faster than I've ever seen it, you have a link down there below to see if you're a fit. That's it for this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.